Good afternoon, everyone. Let me shock you with something uncomfortable. Hope is not a strategy. You cannot build a business, a movement, or a legacy on wishful thinking. If your vision doesn't come armed with execution, spreadsheets, and accountability, it's just daydreaming. Hope is a beautiful thing. It's warm, it's comforting, it makes you feel good inside. It's the thing that keeps you going when the lights are off and the phone calls aren't being returned. But here's the truth no one likes to say out loud: hope, by itself, changes absolutely nothing. You can sit in a dark room for 10 years hoping the lights will come back on, or you can get up, walk to the wall, and flick the switch yourself. Hope is not a strategy, it's a feeling, and feelings don't build empires. Execution does. People confuse inspiration with preparation. They mistake feeling motivated for being ready. That's why so many entrepreneurs fail before they even start. They have this picture in their heads of what success will look like, but they've never mapped the road to get there. They've written down their vision on a piece of paper, but haven't bothered to figure out the numbers, the operations, the systems that will make it real. You cannot deposit hope into a bank account. You cannot walk into an investor's office and pitch hope as your business model. The market rewards delivery, not desire. When you strip everything away, building anything, be it a business, a career, or a legacy, comes down to one word: execution. And execution is hard, it's boring, it's repetitive, it's not standing on a stage inspiring people with big words, it's sitting in a chair at 2 a.m., solving a problem you don't even understand yet. It's making the uncomfortable phone calls, having the awkward conversations, and hearing no so many times that you start to forget what yes sounds like. This is the unglamorous truth no motivational poster will tell you. Hope is passive, it waits. It sits back and says, maybe tomorrow things will get better. A strategy is active. It studies the terrain, it identifies the obstacles, it builds the bridge before you get to the river. Too many people are waiting for their lucky break without realizing the break comes to those already in motion. You don't get opportunities by sitting still. You get them by being in the game, failing, learning, and adapting faster than the next person. I've seen this play out over and over again. The person with half the talent but twice the discipline will always outperform the one with big dreams but no structure. Talent is an advantage, sure, but discipline is a weapon. Strategy takes discipline. It forces you to think 3 moves ahead, to anticipate outcomes, to plan for the worst while working for the best. And once you have a strategy, you can measure progress, adapt your approach, and refine your methods. Hope gives you nothing to measure, only something to wish for. The market is not sentimental. It doesn't care how badly you want it. It doesn't care how many nights you've lain awake dreaming about your product, your service, or your movement. The market cares if you can deliver on time, at quality, at scale. If you can't, someone else will. Harsh? Yes. True? Absolutely. This is why so many startups burn through cash. They raise money on the back of a hopeful story, thinking the money will buy them time. But money without a clear strategy is like pouring water into a bucket full of holes. It disappears faster than you realize. If you don't know exactly how you're going to turn $1 into 3, no investor, no bank, no government grant can save you. Hope will have you celebrating the funding round. Strategy will have you celebrating the profitable quarter. Even in your personal life, this truth holds. You can hope to be healthier, but if you don't change your diet, move your body, and measure your progress, you're lying to yourself. You can hope to have better relationships, but if you don't learn to communicate, to listen, and to show up consistently, those relationships will deteriorate. Hope doesn't build, discipline does. Strategy does. And here's the part most people can't stomach. A real strategy will expose you. It will show you the holes in your thinking. It will reveal that maybe you're not as ready as you thought. That's why people cling to hope, because it's comfortable. It doesn't hold you accountable. Strategy is a mirror, and sometimes the reflection is ugly, but it's that mirror that forces you to improve, to sharpen, to prepare for the battle ahead. There's a reason professional athletes don't just hope to win. They train, they study the opposition, they watch game footage, they have playbooks, conditioning routines, nutrition plans, all strategies designed to maximize performance when it counts. Now tell me, if people in sports, where the outcome is just a trophy, Commit that much to strategy. Why would you approach your life's work with anything less? Hope has its place. It's the spark. It's the thing that gets you to believe that more is possible. But once the spark is lit, you need to build the fire. And that requires fuel, structure, and oxygen. Hope might get you started, but it will not sustain you. What sustains you is the work you put in when no one is watching, the systems you create to keep moving forward, and the courage to face reality without flinching. So stop confusing hope for a plan. Stop telling yourself stories that feel good but take you nowhere. Write the plan, execute the plan, break it, fix it, improve it, do it again. The world is not waiting for the most hopeful person. It's waiting for the one who shows up prepared, consistent, and relentless. Because when the dust settles, the winners aren't the ones who hoped the hardest. They're the ones who executed the best. And that, right there, is the only strategy worth having. Failure is not a risk, it's an eventuality. You will fail. You will get it wrong. You will misread the market, hire the wrong person, price the wrong way, choose the wrong partner, or launch at the wrong time. The question is not if. The question is when. And what you will do the second it happens. Too many people walk into entrepreneurship, leadership, or life itself thinking they will somehow outsmart failure. They treat it like a pothole they can swerve around if they just drive carefully. They believe they are different, special, immune. That's the arrogance that kills more dreams than the failure itself. The truth: failure is the toll you pay for the privilege of playing the game. The problem isn't that people fail. The problem is that people are unprepared for it. They treat failure like a personal insult instead of what it really is: data. Every failure carries a message. The market is speaking to you, telling you that your product isn't good enough, your pitch isn't clear enough, your service isn't fast enough, or your leadership isn't strong enough. Failure is feedback. And feedback is the currency of growth. But you can't spend that currency if you're too busy licking your wounds to collect it. The people who go the furthest in business aren't the ones with the highest IQ or the best funding. They are the ones who learn the fastest from their mistakes and refuse to let those mistakes define them. They run toward the lesson instead of away from it. They dissect what went wrong, not to assign blame, but to sharpen the sword for the next fight. And make no mistake, this is a fight. Every day you are fighting irrelevance, competition, market shifts, new technologies, and the erosion of attention spans. Failure in this environment is not a fluke, it's a feature. Every great entrepreneur, every industry leader, every so-called overnight success has a trail of wreckage behind them. Failed products, closed offices, cancelled contracts, lawsuits, public embarrassments. You just don't see those parts on Instagram because the highlight reel doesn't show the blood on the floor. So if failure is inevitable, what's the real advantage? It's in how you respond. Some people take one loss and never recover. They convince themselves the world is against them. They stop trying. Others take the hit, absorb it, and come back with twice the force. They understand that resilience is not about pretending it didn't hurt. It's about getting back in the game before the other side has even realized you've stood back up. You need to reframe failure in your mind. It's not the end of the road, it's the bend in the road. If you treat it as the end, it will be. If you treat it as part of the journey, it becomes a tool. The faster you fail, the faster you get the data you need to adjust. The slower you fail, the more time you waste on a losing play. That's why some of the smartest founders deliberately test small, break things quickly, and move on. They'd rather take 10 small losses that teach them something than one massive loss that bankrupts them. But here's the part no one tells you: failure hurts more when you care deeply. And you should care deeply. You should be emotionally invested in your vision, your team, your work. The key is not to protect yourself from the pain, but to build the muscle to work through it. The pain of failure is the tax you pay for the privilege of building something that matters. When you understand that failure is coming, you stop living in fear of it. Fear makes you conservative. It makes you second guess. It makes you slow. But when you accept failure as part of the process, you start playing to win instead of playing not to lose. That's where creativity flourishes. That's where bold decisions get made. That's where you start seeing opportunities others are too afraid to take. Think about any major innovation: flight, electricity, the internet, the smartphone. None of those things worked perfectly the first time. They were the result of thousands of failed experiments. The breakthroughs were born in the rubble of ideas that didn't work. You cannot shortcut that process. You cannot hack your way around it. The only way to get to the win is to walk through the losses. The market respects those who have been through the fire and come back stronger. Customers trust you more when you've faced setbacks and survived. Investors bet on people who have failed before because they know those scars are a sign you've been tested. No one wants to back the person who's never been hit. They want the fighter who's taken punches and still steps into the ring. So, expect it. Plan for it. When you build your strategy, factor in the moments you will get it wrong. Keep cash aside for the pivot. Build a culture in your business where mistakes are dissected, not hidden. Encourage your people to bring failures to the surface quickly, so you can course correct before it's too late. Treat every setback as a lab test, not a death sentence. In the end, failure will come for you. It's not a question of talent, intelligence, or luck. It's a question of inevitability. The question is whether you will let it bury you or build you. Whether you will walk away from the game or step back onto the field with more insight, more precision, and more hunger. The winners aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who fall, learn exactly why they fell, and then rise with a better plan. Failure is not the opposite of success, it's the path to it. And once you understand that, you stop fearing the when and start preparing for the next. Scale without culture is like building a skyscraper without a foundation. Sure, it might look impressive from the outside for a while. All shiny, even awe-inspiring. But the first time the wind blows hard enough, it collapses. Growth, real growth, the kind that lasts beyond a good quarter or a flashy product launch, is rooted in culture. Culture accelerates scale because culture is the invisible force that aligns people when the business is moving too fast for you to be everywhere at once. When you're small, you can manage through proximity. You can walk the floor, have coffee with your team, make decisions in real time. But the moment you start growing, new branches, new markets, new hires, you lose that proximity. You can't be in every meeting, you can't approve every decision, you can't personally ensure that everyone is pulling in the same direction. That's where culture steps in. It becomes the unspoken operating manual that guides people's behavior when you're not in the room. Without it, scale turns chaotic. People think scaling is just about sales, funding, and headcount. They treat culture like a nice-to-have that HR can deal with later. That's a mistake, because the moment you start to grow, you're no longer just building a business, you're building an organism. And like any organism, it needs DNA. Culture is that DNA. It determines how decisions are made, how conflicts are resolved, how risks are taken, and how success is celebrated. If that DNA is weak, no matter how fast you scale, you're just accelerating the path to collapse. Culture is not free pizza on Fridays or inspirational quotes on the wall. It's not a social media hashtag or a set of buzzwords on your company website. Culture is the lived experience of your people. It's the habits, the values, and the standards that get rewarded or punished every single day. If you reward speed over integrity, that becomes your culture. If you reward results without questioning how they were achieved, that becomes your culture. And if you reward collaboration, learning, and ownership, that becomes your culture too. The question is, are you shaping it intentionally, or are you letting it happen by accident? The dangerous thing about culture is that it forms whether you like it or not. If you're not deliberate, it will be shaped by the loudest voices, the fastest talkers, or the most politically savvy operators in the room. And here's the truth. The wrong culture will scale just as fast as the right one. Toxic behaviors can spread through a growing company like wildfire, and by the time you notice, they've already become just the way we do things around here. That's why you have to treat culture like a core strategy, not an afterthought. When culture is strong, it accelerates everything. It reduces friction because people know how to make decisions without waiting for permission. It creates speed because trust is high and politics are low. It drives innovation because people feel safe enough to take risks without fearing that one wrong move will cost them their job. And it builds resilience because when the business takes a hit, the culture holds people together long enough to recover. But when culture is weak, scale becomes hollow. You might see revenue growing, but morale is crumbling. You might add more people, but you're also adding more politics. You might open new markets, but you're losing the identity that made customers choose you in the first place. Weak culture makes growth feel heavy instead of exciting. It creates burnout, turnover, and infighting. And here's the kicker. You often don't see the cultural damage until it's too late, because the numbers still look good. But those numbers are lying to you. A company with strong culture can survive bad quarters. A company with weak culture can't survive sustained success. That might sound counterintuitive, but success without cultural grounding inflates egos, breeds complacency, and makes people forget what got them there in the first place. I've seen teams go from underdogs to market leaders and then implode because they scaled faster than their culture could handle. They forgot the principles that made them sharp, hungry, and connected. This is why leaders who think their job is just to grow are missing the point. Your job is to scale well, and scaling well means planting cultural seeds early, protecting them fiercely, and making sure they grow in every corner of the organization. That means hiring for values, not just skills. That means firing people, even high performers, if they poison the culture. That means making your cultural standards so clear that anyone who doesn't fit selects out. Culture isn't soft work, it's hard discipline. It requires saying no to short-term wins that compromise long-term health. It means confronting toxic behavior, even when it comes from a top salesperson or a senior executive. It means refusing to let market pressure push you into compromising your principles. And it means living the values you preach every single day, because nothing kills culture faster than hypocrisy at the top. The irony is that culture work feels slow in the beginning, but it's what makes you fast in the long run. Without it, every new hire needs to be micromanaged. Every decision needs your approval. Every expansion feels like a fight. With it, growth feels lighter because you've built a system where the right behaviors are automatic. That's when you know culture is working, when you walk into a room and people are making the decision you would have made for the reasons you would have made it without you having to say a word. So, yes, scale matters. Yes, growth matters. But the question you should be asking is, are you scaling with a spine or without one? Are you building something that will stand tall when you're not holding it up? Or are you creating a shiny tower that's already hollow inside? Because without culture, scale is just numbers. And numbers alone have never built anything worth remembering. Most founders believe their job is to build the product, build the team, build the revenue. They run faster, push harder, and try to cram 48 hours of work into a 24-hour day. They think the faster they move, the more they win. But speed without clarity is chaos, and chaos burns through people, cash, and opportunity. Your real job isn't just to build the business. It's to slow time down. Slowing time down doesn't mean doing less. It doesn't mean losing momentum. It means creating space in the madness to think, to see, to decide. Because when you're running at full speed without pause, you stop noticing the small cracks that become big breaks. You make reactionary decisions. You confuse movement with progress. And in that blur, you miss the moments that define the future of your business. Think about the greatest leaders. They aren't the ones who are first to respond to every email or in every meeting. They are the ones who see the whole chessboard when everyone else is focused on the next move. They slow the game down in their minds so they can see the plays no one else sees. That's not an accident. It's a discipline. As a founder, you're not paid to be the busiest person in the room. You're paid to be the clearest thinker in the room. And clarity requires perspective. Perspective requires time. Time you can only create by deliberately slowing down. That means pulling yourself out of the weeds, even when every part of you wants to stay there. It means resisting the addiction to urgency, the constant dopamine hit of solving the next fire. It means trusting your team to handle the small battles while you focus on the war. Slowing time down is also about creating deliberate moments. Businesses don't just grow on quarterly targets and KPI. They grow on inflection points, pivots, product launches, strategic hires, market shifts. If you're always moving at breakneck speed, you'll blow right past those inflection points without extracting their full value. The founder who slows time knows how to pause in those moments, pull in the right people, and make decisions that compound over years, not just weeks. This is why so many startups implode, not because the founders weren't smart or hardworking, but because they were trapped in operational speed. They spent all their energy running the machine and none of it designing the machine. You can't see the weak points in your business model if you never step back to look at it. You can't prepare for what's next if you're too consumed by what's now. And slowing time isn't just strategic, it's cultural. When the leader is always frantic, the team becomes frantic. When the leader is always in panic mode, the culture becomes one of firefighting instead of building. People burn out, creativity dies, decision quality drops. But when the leader creates space to think, space to breathe, space to discuss without the ticking clock of constant urgency, the team learns to operate with calm intensity instead of chaos. That's how you keep talent. That's how you inspire great work. The paradox is that slowing time actually makes you faster, because clarity speeds execution. When you've taken the time to think through the real priorities, to anticipate the obstacles, and to align everyone around the same vision, the work flows. You don't waste cycles on the wrong initiatives. You don't keep changing direction because the original plan was rushed. You move forward with fewer stops, fewer mistakes, fewer detours. That's real speed. Slowing time down also means protecting the long game. As a founder, you are the custodian of the future of the business. Investors might care about the next quarter. Customers might care about the next delivery. But you have to care about the next decade. That requires a different lens. It means asking, if we win this way, will it be sustainable? If we grow this way, will it last? It means being willing to take a slower win now if it buys you a bigger win later. One of the greatest skills you can develop is knowing when to act instantly and when to delay. Some opportunities are perishable. They demand immediate action. But most decisions, especially the big ones, benefit from breathing room. Space to gather more information, space to test assumptions, space to listen to dissenting voices. Slowing time allows you to make those decisions with conviction instead of impulse. This is also personal. The pace of building a company can warp your sense of time. Months blur together. Years vanish. If you don't deliberately slow time down, you'll wake up one day with a bigger business, but no idea how you got there. Or worse, no life outside of it. Slowing time means making room for reflection, for learning, for actually experiencing the journey you're on. Otherwise, you're just sprinting toward an undefined finish line. In the early days, you can force growth with sheer energy. But over time, that becomes impossible. Energy fades, markets shift, complexity multiplies. The founders who survive the long game are the ones who learn to step out of the noise, to think in decades instead of days, to resist the pull of constant reaction. They aren't just building, they're architecting, and architects don't just see the next brick. They see the finished building before the first brick is laid. So slow the game down, step back from the noise. See the board, feel the rhythm of the market. Anticipate the wave before it breaks, because your real job isn't just to build. It's to ensure that what you build can stand the test of time. And that will only happen if you have the discipline to make time your ally instead of your enemy. Most people don't actually listen. They wait for their turn to talk. They nod, they smile, they pretend to be engaged, but the whole time they're rehearsing their next sentence. That's not listening, that's performing. And when you live like that, you miss the very thing that could change everything for you. The truth that real wisdom often arrives in silence. Silence is uncomfortable for most people. They feel the urge to fill it, to bridge it with words, to prove they know something. But silence is where the real information lives. It's where you hear what isn't being said. It's where people drop their guard long enough to reveal what they truly mean. And if you're too busy talking, you'll never catch it. Listening is a discipline. It's not passive, it's active. It's about paying attention with your entire presence. It's noticing tone, body language, hesitations, contradictions. It's asking a question, then shutting up long enough for the other person to answer fully, even if the pause feels like an eternity. The silence you create by not interrupting is the very space where the truth often appears. When you speak less, you learn more. Every time you dominate the conversation, you're recycling what you already know. You can't surprise yourself with your own words, but when you listen, you get access to perspectives, experiences, and ideas you could never invent on your own. That's the edge. The competitive advantage is not just in what you can say, it's in what you can absorb. I've sat in boardrooms where the loudest person in the room was also the least informed. They mistook volume for value. Meanwhile, the person who spoke the least often shifted the entire direction of the meeting with a single sentence, because when they spoke, it was distilled insight, not noise. That kind of insight doesn't come from always having the answer. It comes from having the patience to collect enough data before speaking. Listening deeply is also a power move. It disarms people. In a world where everyone is trying to outtalk each other, the one who listens stands out. People lean into you. They feel seen, understood, respected. And when people feel that, they give you more trust, more information, more loyalty. But let's be clear, listening doesn't mean agreeing. You can understand someone without endorsing their point of view. In fact, the better you listen, the sharper your counterarguments become, because you actually know what you're responding to. Too many debates are just two people shouting past each other, not even addressing the same points. True listening eliminates that. Listening also protects you from arrogance. The moment you believe you have nothing left to learn is the moment you start declining. The market changes. People change. The rules change. If you stop listening, you stop noticing those changes until it's too late. Silence forces you to keep your ego in check, to remain a student even when you're a master. And sometimes the most valuable listening you'll ever do is to yourself. That inner voice, the one drowned out by meetings, calls, emails, deadlines, has answers you've been too busy to hear. Slowing down enough to listen inwardly can reveal where you're off track, what you're avoiding, or which opportunity you've been ignoring. But you can only hear it in the quiet. The best negotiators understand this. They know the first person to speak after a proposal often loses. They know people will reveal more if you let them fill the silence. They know deals are made not in the flurry of talking, but in the pauses where the other side shows their real priorities. Silence is not empty. It's loaded. When you listen more than you speak, you also make fewer mistakes. You don't commit to positions too early. You don't react emotionally to half the story. You gather enough to make informed moves. The irony is that by speaking less, your words carry more weight, because people know they're not impulsive. They're considered. But this takes practice. It means catching yourself when you feel the itch to jump in with your opinion. It means resisting the urge to finish someone's sentence, even if you think you know where they're going. It means asking follow-up questions instead of rushing to your point. It means accepting that sometimes the smartest thing you can say in a conversation is nothing at all. In leadership, listening is your radar. It tells you where morale is slipping before it shows up in metrics. It reveals emerging threats before they hit your bottom line. It shows you which ideas have potential and which are just noise. If you're always the one talking, you're flying blind. And here's the final truth. Wisdom doesn't shout. It doesn't compete for your attention. It waits. It waits for you to slow down enough, quiet down enough, and open up enough to receive it. Most people will never hear it, not because it's hidden, but because they can't stop talking long enough to notice it's been in the room the whole time. So stop performing. Stop rushing to prove you know something. Step into the discomfort of silence. Let other people fill it. Let ideas breathe before you touch them. Because the people who listen more than they speak don't just walk away with more information. They walk away with the kind of wisdom you can't get any other way. And in a noisy world, that is the rarest and most valuable thing you can own. So here's the deal. Every one of you in this room has an internal GPS pointing you toward greatness. The question is, will you follow it, or will you listen to the whispers of doubt, fear, or convenience?